The BMW was visible from the dining table. Dad had parked it slightly angled in the driveway so the red bow caught the porch light. Even from inside, you could see the ribbon shimmering against the black paint like it was part of the house's decorations. My sister Alina kept glancing outside between bites of dessert, her reflection glowing in the glass. "Go look," Dad told her finally, unable to contain himself. She screamed when she saw it. The kind of scream that feels expensive. Mom cried. Dad filmed it. I stood near the hallway, holding a rectangular box wrapped in gold paper. It was lighter than it looked. When I opened it, 2 pairs of gray socks slid into my lap. The kind sold in plastic bundles near supermarket checkout counters. Nobody noticed at first. Alina ran back in, arms around Dad's neck. "You're the best father in the world." Dad looked at me then. Not unkind, not embarrassed. Measured. "Everyone gets what they deserve," he said evenly. "Take it or get out." He said it the way someone states a rule about parking. Neutral. Established. Mom didn't object. She adjusted her bracelet and avoided my eyes. I folded the socks carefully and placed them back in the box. For a moment, I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it felt mathematically precise. Years of small calibrations had finally produced a result. Alina had always been the investment. Business school. Startup funding. The one Dad introduced as the future of this family. I was the safe one, the reliable one. The one who worked quietly, paid quietly, covered quietly. No one films quiet. At 4 a.m. the house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. I packed 1 suitcase. Nothing dramatic. Just documents, a laptop, 3 changes of clothes. I left my room exactly as it was. In the hallway, I placed my car keys on the console table. I wasn't taking the sedan Dad had helped me finance 3 years ago. It seemed appropriate to leave it. Then I walked to the tree. The Rs1 gift was small. Brown envelope, no ribbon. Inside was a certified letter and copies of documents. Clean. Organized. Dated. I slid it beneath the lowest branch and stepped outside. The BMW even larger in the dark. For a second, I let myself feel something. Grief maybe. Or relief. It's hard to tell the difference when you've been holding your breath for years. Then I called a cab and left. The phone rang at 9:20 a.m. I was sitting in a rented studio apartment I'd secured weeks ago. Though I hadn't admitted to myself why Dad's name lit up the screen. I let it ring twice before answering. "What did you do?" he asked. No greeting. "I left," I said. "You withdrew the guarantee?" "Yes." Silence. He wasn't shouting. That's how I knew it had landed. 3 years ago, when the family business was teetering, Dad had needed a guarantor for a restructuring loan. Alina's new tech venture was bleeding cash, and investors were nervous. Dad couldn't risk losing liquidity. I had a stable corporate job. Strong credit. No dependencies. "You're good with numbers," he'd said then. "Help the family." I signed. What he didn't know was that I also paid emergency vendor settlements from my savings to keep the company solvent enough for refinancing. Quiet transfers. No announcement. When the BMW was purchased last week, I checked the accounts out of habit. The business was healthy again. Profitable. My guarantee was no longer morally necessary. But it was still legally binding, until this morning. The Rs1 envelope contained formal notice of withdrawal from personal guarantee under the exit clause, triggered by profitability thresholds, a clause I had insisted on 3 years ago. It also included proof of my private payments, notarized, not accusation, just record. "Do you understand what this means?" Dad asked. Yes. The bank had already called him, I was sure. Once a guarantor withdraws, the lending institution reassesses risk exposure. Sometimes they require collateral adjustments. Sometimes immediate liquidity proofs. It doesn't destroy companies. It destabilizes assumptions. "You're putting this family at risk," he said. I removed myself from risk. I corrected gently. Another silence. In the background, I could hear Mom's voice, tight, asking what was happening. Alina got on the line suddenly. "Are you insane?" she demanded. "Do you know what this does to investor confidence?" "Investor confidence?" "Not sister, I know exactly what it does," I said, because I had calculated it carefully. The company would need to restructure certain liabilities. The BMW, technically a corporate, leased luxury expense tied to executive optics, might draw scrutiny now. Not repossessing, just questioning. And questioning, in our family, was unfamiliar territory. Dad's voice returned, lower. "You did this because of the gift." "No," I said truthfully. "The gift just clarified things. The socks weren't the injury. They were the confirmation. I had mistaken tolerance for belonging. Come home. Mom said faintly in the background. I don't live there anymore. By noon I received 3 emails. One from the bank, confirming receipt of my withdrawal. One from our family accountant asking if the action was intentional. One from Alina. Her message was shorter than I expected. Why didn't you ever tell us you paid those vendor debts? I stared at that one for a while. Because no one asked, I almost typed. Instead, I wrote it wasn't necessary. Which was true at the time. I wasn't trying to be noble. I was trying to be useful. There's a difference. That evening, Dad came to see me. He didn't comment on the apartment. It was small but clean. I offered tea. He declined. He sat stiffly at the edge of the chair. The bank wants additional collateral, he said. Temporary. Until review. I expected that. They're questioning the vehicle lease. I nodded. Outside authority is different from family authority. It doesn't argue about deserving. It assesses exposure. You could have talked to me, he said finally. I tried. I replied. Years ago, when I suggested diversifying investments instead of expanding Alina's venture prematurely, he'd waved it off. You worry too much, he had said. Maybe I did. Dad looked older the afternoon light. You think this proves something? He asked. No, I said calmly. It protects me. That seemed to unsettle him more than anger would have. Protection had never been my role. He stood to leave, then paused at the door. The car was a gift, he said quietly. For her hard work. I know. And the socks. I met his eyes. Accurate. He didn't respond to that. When the door closed, I didn't feel triumphant. There was no swelling music in my chest. Just steadiness. The company would survive. They would adjust. Perhaps sell assets. Perhaps delay expansions. The BMW might remain in the driveway, slightly less symbolic. But something had shifted permanently. Not because I punished them. Because I stopped absorbing the imbalance. Later that night, my phone buzzed again. Alina, I didn't know, she said when I answered. I know. Another long silence. What happens now? She asked. That depends on you. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a promise, just fact. Through the window of my small apartment, I could see other buildings lit with leftover holiday lights. Ordinary lights continuing. For the first time in years, I felt proportionate to myself. No bow. No applause. Just weight redistributed, and that was enough.